There is no passion to be found playing small. Really think about what that means for a second. Avoiding risk and just playing it safe, that simply means settling for a life far, far less than the one you're actually capable of living.
We're constantly getting that standard, safe advice from our parents or counselors, right? Make sure you have something to fall back on. Well, Denzel completely flips this concept on its head. If you're going to fall, you shouldn't want to fall backwards into a safety net. You want to fall forward. Why? Because by falling forward, you at least get to see what you're going to hit.
And that brilliantly illustrates the core thesis of this entire philosophy. To get something you've never had, you literally have to do something you've never done. It's kind of like that classic IQ test where you have to connect 9 dots with 5 lines without lifting your pencil. The only way to solve it is to actually go outside the box. It's about embracing the absolute necessity of taking chances if you want to achieve anything new or worthwhile.
To put this into perspective mathematically, just consider the staggering number 2,600. That represents the amount of times the legendary baseball player Reggie Jackson struck out in his career. That is the absolute most strikeouts in the entire history of baseball.
And right on the heels of that, consider 1,000. That is the exact number of completely failed experiments Thomas Edison conducted before he finally invented a working light bulb on his 1,001st attempt.
So, what's the big takeaway here? Monumental success absolutely demands a massive volume of failure. Every single failed experiment is actually just one step closer to success. Because at the end of the day, history, and honestly the people around you, remember the home runs and the light bulbs. They do not remember the strikeouts or the 1,000 misses.
Denzel actually shared a pretty wild personal story about this from early in his own career. He auditioned for a Broadway musical, thinking it was the absolute perfect role for him, except for one tiny little detail. He completely bombed the audition because he couldn't sing. But instead of falling back and quitting, he walked out of there and kept preparing, kept praying, and just kept going to the next audition. He kept failing, but he kept trying. And guess what? It paid off. 30 years later, he caught a break and starred in the play Fences on Broadway, at the exact same Court Theater where he had failed that very first audition.
It just goes to show that striking out isn't just some common side effect of ambition. It is a hard requirement. If you aren't failing, you're not even trying. It's a stark reminder that staying comfortable and avoiding embarrassment is actually the real failure. You've got to have the guts to fail.
All right, let's shift to a much heavier thought for a second. I want you to visualize a deeply powerful metaphor that Denzel presents. Imagine you are on your deathbed, standing at the absolute very end of your life.
Picture this. Surrounding your bed are the ghosts of your unfulfilled potential. These ghosts represent the brilliant ideas you never acted on and the unique talents you just didn't use. And they're standing around your bed, angry, disappointed, and upset. They came to you because you were the one who could have brought them to life, and now they have to go to the grave right along with you.
It really forces us to ask a terrifying but totally necessary question. How many ghosts are going to be around your bed when your time comes? If you let the fear of striking out dictate your actions today, that crowd might be much larger than you'd like to admit.
Section 1. Finding direction through failure.
So this brings us to a huge realization. Failure doesn't just block you, it actually gives you vital direction. Just look at Denzel's completely chaotic early college years at Fordham University. He started out as a pre-med student where he couldn't even pass a class with a name as intimidating as cardiac morphogenesis. Then he bounces to pre-law and then over to journalism. He ultimately bottomed out with a 1.8 GPA, and the university very politely suggested he pack it up and take some time off.
He was just 20 years old, sitting at his absolute lowest point. But hitting rock bottom led him to his mother's beauty shop on a very specific day, March 27, 1975. While he was looking in the mirror, he notices an elder woman from the town who just kept staring at him, giving him these strange looks from right under the hairdryer. Finally, she takes the dryer off her head, looks right at this failing 20-year-old, and gives him a literal spiritual prophecy. She says, "You are going to travel the world and speak to millions of people." And as we all know, that is exactly what he ended up doing in the years that followed, traveling the globe and speaking to millions through the medium of movies.
It's such a brilliant reminder that your life is never, ever going to be a straight path. Sometimes completely bombing is the absolute best way to figure out where you're actually supposed to be going. If he hadn't failed out of college with a 1.8 GPA, there is no way he would have been sitting in that beauty shop on a random Thursday to hear the redirection that changed his entire life.
Section 2. Sharing your unique gifts.
Okay, so once failure finally redirects you to where you're meant to be, you have to recognize what you uniquely bring to the table. And the world needs a lot right now, and it needs it from you. Whether we're talking about places with terrible poverty like South Africa, or needs in the Middle East, Japan, or right here at home in places like Philadelphia, Louisiana, or Alabama, there is profound need absolutely everywhere, and it requires the fresh energy of people willing to step up and give everything they've got.
And you know, your contribution isn't just about what you majored in or how much money you make. Your specific gift might be money, sure, but it could also be patience, it could be kindness, love, or even the resilient ability of long-suffering. The point is, every single person has something distinct and incredibly valuable to offer.
Taking real risks isn't just about going for a specific job either. It's also about being incredibly honest with yourself. It's about knowing what you know, and just as importantly, knowing what you don't know. It means being radically open to new people and ideas, relying heavily on your faith, and being super honest about both your strengths and your blind spots. The chances you take and the people you love are what will ultimately define you.
So, the ultimate takeaway from today's explainer: never, ever hold back. Don't get discouraged. You've got to deploy everything you have, whether that's your time, your talent, your prayers, or your treasures, with absolute maximum effort.
Which leaves us with this final, really provocative thought for you to chew on moving forward. We've established that the world needs you, and that everyone has a unique gift. So, what are you going to do with what you have? Think about that, embrace your missteps, and always remember to fall forward.